Hello, Alain. Welcome, and welcome to everyone to the second in the Learn from Leaders series. In June, I talked with Mark McLean, the head of diversity, inclusion, and well-being for M&G based in London. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Alain Morize. Welcome, and I'm absolutely delighted that you can join me to discuss my book today, Leading Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Now, Alain has extensive global experience. He's originally from France, but he's truly a global citizen. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago. He's lived in Boston, in LA, in Puerto Rico, in Angola, Indonesia, Texas, and even on a ship that traveled around New Caledonia, if I'm not mistaken, in the Pacific.
You're correct, Ronnie.
So he's currently the Senior Vice President for Energy and Resources for Sodexo in the United States. So excited to have this conversation with you. You shared some amazing experiences in the book. Alain, you've had some incredible global roles. Can you share a little bit about your professional and your journey with the audience?
So number one, Ronnie, hello. Nice to be with you again today. We have been discussing a lot, so it's very nice to be. It's a pleasure to discuss with you, and I'm grateful that my experience can be used by others as an example. So, as you said, I'm a global citizen as per your definition. That I was born in France.
Right.
Then I left France when I was 20-year-old, and since then I never came back. I worked everywhere in the world, but in France, which is quite interesting anyway. So I started when I get my high school degree, which was late, I went to study in Boston at Northeastern and get my degree in finance, and started to move to Los Angeles and started to work in the service industry, in the fashion industry, to be in Beverly Hills, which was quite an exposure. Again, because that was not prepared for that. Then because of visa issue, I have to leave the US and went back to France, did some summer jobs, so again being a lifeguard and everything like that, but nothing serious. And I get the opportunity to work in New Caledonia, so for your readers, which is a French territory which is not too far away from New Zealand and Australia.
Awesome.
So quite far and away. And I was the purser on the very small vessel doing the island, going around. And so we were in Caledonia, in New Caledonia, sorry, there's two populations. That what we have is called the Kanak, which are the original people, which were there before the French people arrived. And we have the Caldoche, which are the French people that came during the immigration. And today, if you read the news, today they are trying to see if New Caledonia will stay a French territory, or they will get their independence. So they're voting on that. But at the time, that was not the discussion. So we had, we already have two groups of people which are living in the same territory, but don't see the same thing the same way. So it's important to always realize that it's not going to be the same. The way you're acting, the way you're behaving may be misinterpreted by one community and correctly interpreted by the other. So you're always trying to be neutral, but it's not easy when you are very young. You make some mistake. But anyway, it was a very good experience. And I left and I came back to work in the US for a cruising company called RCCL. And I was based in Puerto Rico, as you said, and worked over there, but I didn't like it too much. So I left very quickly. I went back to France and found a new job for a service company again in Angola, which was, so I was working for a French company. And this French company was having services in Angola, and I was in charge. So Angola at the time was during the civil war between SMBB and Dos Santos. And I was there with UNAVEM 3, which was a UN mission. And I was in charge with my company, the company I was working for, trying to protect the assets and the people of the United Nations. Again, so Angola was, a beautiful country, beautiful people, under a lot of stress because the situation was so difficult for them. They were civil war, and the civil war lasted for so long that all value we are used to were gone. At the end of the day, you are trying to survive, just trying to get some food on the plate for you and your kids, and that changed a lot of the perception or the way you see life. Then left Angola for the same company and then went to work in Indonesia. And that's where I started my career today. And I was assigned to the island of Borneo, and I worked I was a site manager, and I was working for the biggest coal mine in Indonesia, in the world. It's called KPC Senggata. And again, different experience. It was the first time I was exposed to the values and the culture of people in Southeast Asia, being an European. And that was quite a cultural shock also, because whatever you believe, you can see that other people don't share the same value as you. I mean, always a funny side that we have when we are in Indonesia, it's a concept of time. We Westerners have a tendency to be very precise, use a watch. In Indonesia, it's much more an abstract dimension. So we use the term besok, which can mean tomorrow, whatever. Tomorrow in 5 minutes or tomorrow in 3 months is the same word, it's besok. So again, different way to see that your life. I mean, not everybody see the same as you, and you have to learn how to respect those people and try to understand them and be, in a way, I would call it in a positive way, be a tourist, be willing to learn, put yourself in a position to learn. I loved Indonesia so much that I found my wife there, and I spent 12 years over there. But everything has an end, and we worked for the company called Compass at the time, and I was transferred to the UK, in Aberdeen, in Scotland. So you spend 12 years where it's beautiful and sunny, the temperature is the same every day. And you arrive in Aberdeen and it's raining, it's snowing, it's cold. My wife, it was quite a challenge, especially for my wife, because in her life, she never seen the snow before. It was the first time. And our daughter was very, very, very young. She was 8 months old. So again, quite an experience. Beautiful country again, fantastic people. It was different again, so close from home, yet so far in terms of what people were doing. Because again, I mean, I was coming from the country in the south of France, it's very sunny, and over there it's almost raining every day at the time. So we have to adapt, we have to change, but we have fantastic friends over there, and we still know them. I left in 2011, so almost 10 years now. And we're still friends. I mean, we never see each other again, except by Zoom or by Teams or by Skype. Yet we're still friends, so it's quite amazing, the relationship we built. After the Aberdeen, I went to work for Sodexo, and I went to Saudi Arabia. And again, for Westerners, Saudi Arabia is a country full of cliché. I mean, when you said you're going to be transferred to Saudi Arabia, it's not the country you're dreaming about. Yet again, I mean, when you take the time to understand the country, to respect the people, and trying to say, okay, let me be open and see why they are doing like this. Again, fantastic people, beautiful country. I really loved it. The time I spent over there was fantastic. And I have to learn again. I have to learn to adapt. And you and I will speak about that later, but we have some challenges to face. And again, what can we do as people like me coming there? I mean, again, it was just an experience, but a beautiful country, and really enjoy it. And finally, I came back to the state. It's going to be 3.5 years now, working for Sodexo. And today, as you said, I'm a SVP for ENR. So it means that we are looking at all the assets in the US, which are working in the mining, petrol, oil company, gas company, sustainable. And we're trying to develop and sell our services. And again, Texas, it's I really love the Texan people, nice people. So, but you have to adapt. I mean, it's not because I'm French that nobody is going to give me anything. So I have to adapt. I have to understand. My team is based in New Orleans, for example. So I have to work with them. I have to I have to learn about football and the Saints and the team and the teams, because I really, and I get a fantastic person working with me. Her name is Dawn, and she took me around this. And others, and it's Dawn number one, but other people. But they are very pleased when you take the time to discover their culture. Those people like to share, and I think it's a fantastic privilege to be in my position and to be the recipient of such a good word from those people and willingness to show me what is their country. I really enjoy that.
Awesome. So that's why I said you're truly a global citizen. So there are 3 things that stood out for me in what you said. One was this whole concept of time. And you're so right. There's no right and there's no wrong, right? It's just different worldviews. Even for us, when you go from the US to Europe, there's very different concepts of time, even between the French and the Americans, right?
Yes.
So it's relative, it's very contextual, and it's just a different way. There's no right or wrong. The other thing
Correct.
that I found very interesting, what you said, was the fact that, when you talked about Texas and Dawn and how she showed you around, how important it is to kind of link with locals, right?
Yes,
To
it's
really be
correct.
a guide and to kind of shepherd and show you the way things work in a particular culture, which I think is a strategy that you have really kind of developed quite well. And then the third piece, when you talked about Saudi, and that's where I met you. So we're going to talk a little
Yep.
bit about that experience, because honestly, to me, Alain, when I went, as you said, I had my own sort of preconceptions about Saudi, and we met in Bahrain. And I had my notions of, what women from Saudi were like. And when I went there and I spent that day with your team, it was just a fantastic experience for me. Very disruptive, because the energy of the women in that room and
Yeah.
how excited they were, how enthusiastic, really was a testament to the team you had built in a culture which didn't necessarily kind of allow you to sort of develop and advance women. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the first principle in my upcoming book is called Make It Local.
Yes.
And what I sort of have found is that for global diversity, equity, and inclusion culture change to be sustainable, to be effective, it has to be anchored in an understanding of the local context. It has to be informed by the local culture, by the local history, by the language, by the laws, regardless of where you are. And with that information and understanding and knowledge, then leaders like you can disrupt the status quo. You can push for change. But what you did so well was that you did it in partnership with local change agents. That's exactly what you did. You came in as an outsider, you pushed for change, but you did it partnering with the local change agents, taking their advice, taking their recommendations into play. So you shared some really powerful stories that I included in the book
Yep.
about how you respected the local norms while pushing for change to welcome the women to your Saudi office. So, and how you partnered to do that. So can you share a little bit about the situation, first of all, with regards to women when you came to Saudi? What was, just not everyone may know, it may be obvious to you, but not everyone may know what the situation for women was like in Saudi at the time, in terms of laws, etc., and how restricted. So you can just share
Okay.
that, and then what
Yeah.
you did to address the situation.
So when I arrived in Saudi Arabia, the country was still, so King Abdullah was a reign of King Abdullah, coming to the end of the reign of King Abdullah. But when I arrived, so the country was still under strict Islamic law that we call the Sharia laws. And as such, as much women get a lot of freedom in their own household and families, as much they were restricted to go outside. So, for example, the Saudi system at the time prevented the women to take the plane by themselves. So they have to get the authorization from a male figure. It can be the father, the husband, the cousin, or even the son sometimes. So the women didn't have, in the outside world, the woman didn't have any right to be a human like the Saudi males. They always have to be behind. They cannot speak to strangers. They couldn't drive. They couldn't go shopping by themselves, or they can go only in stores where only women can serve them, because the other contact with foreigners was forbidden. So that was the situation. But at the end of the day, which was quite interesting, because up to you were 21 or up to the time you finished your university, the women had the right to go to university, school for women, university for women, but they didn't have the right to go into the workforce. They were prevented to do that because they would be meeting a lot of foreigners. That was not, foreigner to their family, and that was not accepted at the time. So very strong person. I think in the family, and again, I didn't have time or the occasion to understand that, but I think they were trying to within their family compounds, they were okay. They could have
Right.
the right to be themselves and to behave correctly. But the outside world, it was quite restrictive for them, very tough. And again, to my wife also, which is a Muslim person, it was quite disruptive because in Indonesia, the women are much more, and we already had a prime minister, a woman
That's
prime
right.
minister in Indonesia at the time.
Yeah.
And for her, so I think in Indonesia at the time, I mean, whether you're a male or female didn't make any difference. I mean, you have the right to grow and be a successful person. But in Saudi Arabia, again, different type of context. So that was the situation I found when I arrived about the woman.
And so, you know, so you found this situation. Then I saw what you did because, you know, women in their beautiful embroidered abayas, but very, very vocal, very engaged. So what did you do to address the situation with regards to the women in Saudi? You know, somewhat as an outsider, you had the freedom to push for increasing the hiring of women. You know, so if you can just talk a little bit about what you did to address the situation, what are some of the challenges?
I think you come back to one of your principles in your book. It's the change has to make sense. And the key issue we had at the time was, so again, Sodexo as a company always tried to follow Pierre Bellon principle, which is you have to be a stakeholder on the local economy if you have to have a sustainable footprint in this part of the world. But in Saudi Arabia, because of the context, a majority of the workforce was expatriate, like myself or people coming from the Asian continent. And we had only few Saudis. And we were trying to, at the time again, when King Abdullah, when I arrived, if you are trying to attract young male Saudis, you were competing against biggest established companies such as Saudi Aramco, such as SABIC, which are very big conglomerates. So we had a lot of difficulties, and we prefer to pay.
And so also local Saudi companies, right? You were competing against the local.
Yes, you're totally correct. Right. And so we prefer to pay the fine instead of trying to attract young people because the market was short. And then you look around. So when you go to Riyadh, for example, you land at Riyadh airport, there's this huge university, one of the biggest I've ever seen, where it's only women inside. And you say, okay, why those people are educated and why can they not come to work in the workforce? So we had the need. We had the need to expand our Saudi citizens in our company. And also what we found out when King Abdullah did the change, allowed women to work, we found out that if we can attract those people working for us, they were very well educated. They were willing to work and very eager to work. And if we make some modification and follow the requirement at the time, which was enacted by Saudi Arabia, we can help the women to grow. That can help our company to pay less financial fine. And we can have very good people which know the country better than us because we are, as you say, we are guests, we are foreigners. But they know the coutume, they know everything. They can help us to grow our footprint in Saudi Arabia by giving us indication what to do and not to do. So it was, so we tried. I mean, when the opportunity was given, again, the idea was, okay, let's try. And I know, and again, when I took the decision to go with hiring ladies, I had issues. I mean, my management didn't follow me. My team didn't follow me. But I mean, again, I had some people that was okay with me. But I remember one of the few fights I had with my boss at the time was about that. I mean, he said, look, you cannot hire a woman. It's going to be a problem. I said, okay, look, I didn't see where could be the problem. So you have to have a little bit of faith also in what you are doing. You're taking a risk. At the end of the day, at some stage, you have to be willing to take a risk. And I remember the first time when I saw one of those ladies coming in, and so she had the abaya on her, and you didn't see anything. You didn't see the hands, you didn't see the eyes. She couldn't speak to me, so she had, I think it was her father coming with her. And every time I was trying to speak to her, that was the father answering me the questions. So you know already that you have to change because we don't realize that how important for us the visual messages from our hand or face when we are discussing is quite important.
Good point.
If I put everything in front of you and I blocked your visual references, and the person cannot even speak. Right. So you have to find different. I mean, again, I was supported by a person called Nassim Mukbil, which was my HR manager at the time, and he was a great support because he knew the country. And I didn't know. So he understand what I was trying to do. And he supported me again to come back to, you have to have local support. My local support was Nassim Mukbil. And he helped me a lot trying to open my eyes. I said, look, you have to accept what you're going to see. You have to play the rules. And we can work with the time. Don't expect the change overnight. You have to respect those people as much as you're going to respect you. And so, but that was the first cultural shock. I mean, and again, trying to speak to somebody that you cannot see, cannot answer to you directly, it's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So we started like this.
So let me just ask you two questions. This is really fascinating because really, if you viewed this situation through a very Western feminist lens, the working conditions for women would have been unacceptable.
Correct.
Because if you impose your values, your worldviews, at the end of the day, the women wouldn't be able to work for Sodexo. So, clearly you had certain values. What was it that sort of pushed you to hire the women in the first place? Why did you do that? And then secondly, how did you sort of accommodate them in the workplace? Because I know you had a separate room initially for them with an intercom and also if you could just speak to both those things.
So when we are, again, so come back to the second question first, maybe
right.
The first question last. Yeah. So when we hired those ladies, again, when the King Abdullah gave us a right to, and I say because it's a total monarchy over there, so he has to give us the right. He gave us a right to, we as companies, to hire women. What we did, he gave us a set of law that we have to follow. And I think the first rule, as you say, we have to respect the local laws, local custom. I'm not here to change everybody. And I think if you want to make a big change, so it's important, but you have to start with a small step. So what we agree upon, yes, clearly that was not, I have a wife and I have a daughter, and that was not the way I see the role of the woman in the society. So, but you have to accept that I'm not here to put my view forward. That I'm here to help the country to develop to what I believe, based on my culture, is a great situation. But you have to accept that maybe you are not to the point where those people are willing to accept your views. Right. And again, it's happened to me in Indonesia. For example, I'm Latin. So when I speak, you can see I'm using my hands. If you go to Indonesia, when using your hands, it's a sign of lack of education. So you have to understand that the different values, different culture, and you have to be willing to accept what people believe and not judge, and trying to work with that. So that was the key message for us is, okay, let's start from ground zero. Let's give them a chance to start to get in. Because again, and at the beginning, I choose not to recognize them. I know they were women because of the law, but they're also human beings. And can bring us a lot of advantages and
very highly educated, right?
Highly educated,
more highly educated than the men. So
yes, much more willing to work. Also, highly educated, willing to work.
Correct.
Because for them at the beginning, I think the fact they couldn't. Don't forget. At the time, I know it's a cliche. So maybe it's a cliche I'm saying, and maybe I would apologize for that. But I had the impression that the women couldn't get out of the house. They were in a very free inside the house, but outside the house, it was kind of a jail, I would say, a jail, quote unquote. So the fact they can go somewhere else, they came to the workplace. At the beginning, it was very difficult, and for them and for us. And again, when you're making a change, you have to be willing to take the time. We have the French president used to say before, give time to time. That's a very strong statement, I believe. So we have to accommodate the law, and we have to respect the local culture. And so they were afraid to speak to us. We were afraid to speak to them. We didn't want to cross any boundaries. We were very respectful. It took us a little bit of time to get them at ease and say, okay, you can contribute. What we also wanted to do, Rohini, is to make sure they contribute to the company. So we didn't want to do it just for the sake of doing it,
right.
but we wanted them to be involved and to have a share or a participation on how well the company will develop itself. So it's not like I put you in a room, I give you a computer and do whatever you want to do during the day. You have tasks to do. You have like if you were a normal employee, because we try to see them as employees. They have to create every employee in a company as a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was important for us to give them a purpose, to be there, to be and to feel again that they were contributing to the well-being of the company and the other employees. So that was very important for us, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're trying to drive all the time. So, it took some time. I will be fair with you. It wasn't obvious. It took almost a year. But when the ladies started to realize that because of Sodexo values, you are an employee, and if you have something to say, you have to say it. As you know, safety, for example, we have the stop program where everybody can stop us if we are making a mistake. Mm-hmm. We accept in my management style, but I think in Sodexo style also, we accept to be challenged by our team. Again, we are welcoming that because we cannot see everything. It's difficult for us. Mm-hmm. So when we start to realize that we are looking, not only we want you to contribute by doing tasks for the company, but we are also looking for your opinion,
your ideas,
your ideas. That was a change. That was the biggest change to make because at the beginning, remember, we had those executive committee meetings, and it was difficult at the beginning because we had to split the room in two and making sure that the ladies were protected. But at the end, they asked us. They were the one asking us. They were the one pushing us to be much more taking not risk per se, but take away the curtain. We want to be part. We get we get our clothing to protect us, so we don't want to be behind the curtain, because behind the curtain you cannot see us. So they took the risk and they wanted to participate. And when we started to listen to them, since when you arrived, you start to see that ladies were very happy to participate. They had ideas, they wanted to share, and it was great. I think it was helping us to create a new environment in our very small Sodexo, in one office, in one Saudi Arabia, in Dammam. But with one small step, we started to build on the new society. And you see today what's happening in Saudi Arabia, where today, women have the right to drive, they can go out, it's much more freedom. So in a way, we were in advance.
You were ahead,
ahead of the change in a country. But what we have done as Sodexo and as individual, I think we prepare those ladies for the change coming.
No, that's great. And I think, if I remember correctly, initially you had to have a separate room with the intercom for the companion to go in. But what did you do? Because I thought that was fascinating, because when they wanted to have their voice heard, and you said they have to participate in some meetings if their ideas are going to count. And the challenge you had was there were some people, some men, right, who were conservative and who resisted, who said that, no, they have to have a Muslim male chaperone with them at all times. Tell me a little bit about how you addressed that situation, because you needed to get those men on your side if the situation was going to open up for them. So just share a little bit about that, how you use the local change agents, including those that were resistant.
So what we did, number one, is when people have, especially, so the biggest issue that didn't come up from the Saudi citizen, it came up from expatriates.
Right.
So people coming from other Arab countries or other Asian countries, which have been educated or came to Saudi Arabia for the last 30 years and were used to such a way to drive life, and didn't understand the change. Maybe the Saudi people were much more aware of the need to change, because again,
interesting.
But the expatriate community was a bit more resentful of change. And I think the first thing we did was to listen to them. If you want to be able to influence others, you cannot give an order. Doesn't work. So you have to influence. You have to try to show but you have to listen to the argument first. What is your argument? Why do you don't want me, the lady, to come? So, for example, I had an office, and the people didn't want the ladies to come to my office by themselves. I say, okay, so what can we do? They have to come to see me because I have to get paper to sign, or we have to discuss. what can we do? He said, do you want to come every time with them? He said, no, I don't want that. So can we get 2 ladies? Can we open the door? So yes. So we have to accept their point to a point and see, okay, how can we accommodate the situation? Get them used to the change. So we're not trying to break your laws. We're not trying to break your culture, but we are trying to accommodate and give space to people to within our visions. And again, in the fact they have to contribute to the society to which you agree before. And so they get used to the change, Rohini. I mean, so we didn't start by one. So we have everybody was in the same room discussing. Now we start very small. So number one, we came with, as you said earlier, we create special rooms. We cannot communicate with them. And because the lady wanted to participate more, they start to say, okay, can we bring you a paper to sign, for example? Yes, you start with very small step. You always start with small step. You never start with, the big step.
And because
and advance the change, and you make sure that there is a reason behind. So I remember the person I was thinking about, is called Mustafa, but even him at the beginning was extremely resistant to change. But at the end of the day, he started to realize that those people, and I call them people or those ladies, bring a lot of value because they were highly educated. And so he was on the finance and accounting job. They were highly educated. They were doing the job much, much better than some other male counterpart. And they were not trying to break the law. They were just trying to be themselves.
Yeah.
So even he recognized that, yes. So I could see the conflict because he was what I can call a traditional Muslim, or very conservative. And you can see the conflict because from one point of view, the religion was, look, we cannot accept that. But from a professional point of view, when you saw the value those people were bringing to us, he said, yes, I want that. So I think it became an internal debate. And the idea for me was trying to help. I said, look, we want to respect your culture. We want to respect Islam. How can you help us? So making the agent of change, give us an indication. You saw what they can do for us, what they want to do. How can you help us? And he gave us some ideas. So I would not say that they are the best idea in the world, especially if you're coming from a Western world like me. But in that context, because I put him on our side, it works. And he became kind of supporter. So I'm pretty sure deep inside, he was never a true believer in terms of, because I think he was an older man. So it's difficult to accept change when you're older. But he saw the value on that. And I know when I left Saudi Arabia, the biggest change I have, that nothing went back to before. Everything kept the same way. So in a way, we created the conditions that the change is not because of me. That's the biggest issue. The change is because of what you believe, and the people which at the beginning were not supporting you, even when you go and not going back to the old way, I think can be a small victory. So I know it's only one floor, it's only 50 people. It's not a big change, but you have made the biggest person, again, I come back to him, which was opposed to that, didn't change anything when I left. And I think that would be for me something which was very important and show us that we were right. In a way, the way we pursue was, I would say, the right way. And again, when you came after that and we met in Bahrain, you saw those ladies because even here at the beginning, it was difficult for them. All their lives, they've been told, do not speak to foreigners, do not be in the same room as different men, which are not part of your family. And for them to be able to break this quote unquote taboo and start to say, okay, no, I want to be part of the team. I want to communicate. I want to be taking decision with you, be able to meet you. That was a big step also, but because we created the condition where we learn to trust each other. Even if we didn't. And again, I think you're doing that by respecting where they're coming from. Trying to say, okay, we want to follow the law of your country. We don't want to change the culture of your country. That's not our goal. Our goal is to make sure that you are happy as a human being and you can find your place in the society as per your culture, your law, your language, and everything. And the fact we took the time to respect that, Rohini, was makes, I think, help us a lot. And the second, one of the elements you have also that it was good for business. At the end of the day, let's go back to business world, because we are a business. It wasn't a cost for us. So we moved from a situation where we had to pay because we didn't have enough Saudi citizens, where we didn't have to pay anymore. And the money were given to promote other human beings. And it was creating value for us. And that was fantastic. I think we succeeded a lot.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome because it really was seizing a business opportunity. You got good talent, educated talent, committed.
Yes, yes.
You saved money because you didn't have to pay the fee. So all around it was a win-win. What was great was the fact that you also understood the context very well. You partnered with the locals, right? Even those that were most resistant, to help you to bring about the change, by understanding, what their logic was and shifting them incrementally. And I think what was excellent is how you said that it's not big steps. It can be small steps that add up, and you have to start somewhere. So you can't take, the whole, enchilada, as we say, right? The whole problem, right? You have to kind of piece it and take it, find a right entry point, and then build from it. And then the great success was the sustainability. Even when you were taken out, it continues, which I think is a testament to.
Yes.
So can you share a success story of any of the women, any success story that you can share of any of the women, in terms of how they went on to?
I will share two moments, which I think make me understood or made me realize, that I was on the good, we as a team were on the good path. The first time when the lady started to speak up, so on a regular basis, we had what we call executive committee reunions. So we're trying to manage the destiny of the company, take decisions. At the beginning, we invited the ladies because, again, of their jobs, not because of who they are, but because they were having function of supervisor and manager. So they needed to be in that team. And at the beginning, you start to ask them to participate, but because you're facing so many years of culture not to speak, nobody's speaking up. And it went for quite some time. So it's quite difficult per se. I mean, when you're having people and you know that you're going to speak by yourself for most of the time. So you have meetings for 2 days and it's going to be kind of a monologue. So it's quite boring and difficult. It's not what as a leader, it's not what I'm looking at. So we have to educate the people. And my first moment was when the lady started to speak up and share their ideas, share their opinions, give us recommendations on what we said, what was correct, not correct. That was wow. And I remember at the time was we had a Saudi colleague called Osama. And it was such a shock because for him also was the first time when he heard a lady spoke and share her views outside the family circle. And so that was a kind of wow moment. And again, and the more those ladies started to stand up and say, okay, this is what I believe on, this is what my recommendation is. I will agree with that, I disagree with this. And the more they took confidence, and the more you can see the as you said, the culture, the education, what we wanted to see in any managers coming out. And that was fantastic. That was my first moment when I say, okay, that's a good step.
That's
we moved
great.
from nobody saying anything to, hey, I'm starting to participate and start to be an active member of your team. That's fantastic. And the second moment, I think it's going as today. I mean, so as I said to you today, I mean, I left the country almost 4 years now.
Right.
We are still in contact via LinkedIn. We are still in contact with a few of those ladies. They're moving on. They start.
Awesome.
So some of them stay where we were before, but other ones move to other companies and are still climbing the ladder. So the foundation we built again, I think where, as I said, number one, the first good sign is when I left, nobody destroyed the foundation.
That's right.
So it wasn't done against other people. People start to realize and share my views. But also for those people, those ladies, some of them choose to, like anybody else, they choose to leave the company and work somewhere else. And they grew the ladder. They're still growing the ladder. So it's fantastic. I mean, it built, okay, so I would not be arrogant to the point taking the ownership of this. But I think somewhere, somehow, I contributed, I and Sodexo, I have to be fair, contributed to the development of those people so they can be very active person in their societies, in their environment. So I wasn't trying to change everything, but just changing them. And I'm very happy for them. Look, that would be my second, I would say, my happy moment, because they are becoming citizens of Saudi Arabia, and I think they're contributing much more to their country wealth and development that they were doing before. So that for me is my second.
That's awesome. That's great.
My second point.
That's terrific. So just in closing, is there, anything that you might have done differently in hindsight? And then, what advice do you have for those that are leading global transformation around the world? Anything you might have done differently, and any advice that you have?
What I would have done differently, Rohini, would be I would have taken more time. So I was so much focused on the Saudis,
Right.
so on the group of people, whether they were male or female, and the way it's going to work in the company, that I forgot, in a way, the people I had today, which was the expatriates. And the way the people came back to me, I didn't expect that, if you want. I was so much more in the belief that the expatriate will see very quickly what we wanted to do,
right.
The values and everything. I didn't expect them, or few of them, not everybody, but few of them, to become the biggest block, resistance block. So I didn't, I know, for example, today we are having a lot of changes still today in the D&I world. And we take for granted that a group of people will say, oh, yeah, okay, I understand that. But I think we have to take the time to make sure that everybody understands why we're doing it. If you understand the why, it's going to be much more easier to drive the result. And again, so for me, again, when I speak to my team, I know we have today, I mean, Sodexo, in our Western world, we are speaking a lot about the woman condition. And I will stay only on the woman because that's something, again, I get skin in the game. I mean, I get my daughter, I get my wife, and I want to make sure that they have the right to succeed as much as I do. I mean, it's not because I'm a male that I should be different. And I was speaking with my daughter last time, which is 13-year-old, and she said, look, and we are trying to discuss in the car. So she was going to see her friends and say, I want to make sure to you that I give you as much chances as I give to your brother. And so that was my vision at the time. So I was skin in the game because my wife, which is Asian, and Rohini, I mean, people in Asia are really always a bit very soft, very good listener. And I saw my wife has to change again in Saudi Arabia because, again, she was treated as a servant per se because she was from Indonesia and she was a female. No respect at all. So she has to change totally, change her attitude.
Treated as
a servant, Indonesia. I mean, so Indonesian.
You have to give some, give some context because people may not know, because a lot of the domestic help comes from Indonesia and Philippines and India, Bangladesh, right? Yeah,
exactly. So, and so it was tough for me to see that. But I start to realize that also all the ladies, and again, all ladies, you have to respect them. So again, de facto has some kind of, I mean, I'm not a lady, don't get me wrong here, but I wanted to make sure that the world for my wife, the world for my daughter can change for them.
Yeah.
It's a better place for them. So that's part of my skin in the game is what can I do to contribute for that? And again, with other people and trying to follow that. So that, I think it's important, get some skin in the game and making sure that you understand the situation. Again, I made a mistake. And if I had to do it again, I would make sure that, I didn't realize how disruptive that change would be for the expatriates. Because I say, okay, when you're expatriate, you always go back to your country, you go back to what you see. And again, I mean, we have a lot of Asian people from working for us in Saudi Arabia, but you go to India, you go to Indonesia, you can see in Bangladesh, you can see I mean, I don't know, Pakistan also, you can see the women having important role in the society.
Right.
So that was my assumption, and I make a small mistake. So I would have said that.
Yeah, excellent point.
I should have to make sure that everybody in the team was. So I was too much focusing on the Saudis and not enough on the expatriates. I will change that.
So really, that's an excellent learning in terms of really getting a good picture of the power dynamics, the dominant subordinate groups, a holistic 360 picture, because sometimes you focus on one and you forget that, the totality of the picture. I think that's an excellent point. So any advice, just last minute advice or closing thoughts? I think we've covered a lot, but anything in terms of those working around the world, any advice for them?
Always value, I mean, my advice is, I didn't do it because I had to do it.
Right.
I did it because I believed into it. And too many times today, I see people doing it just to get, and sorry to speak like this, to get the bonus or to tick the Excel spreadsheet. And I think, no, you have to believe into it. And again, I'm not saying that you have to, and again, I was speaking about the cause of the women's. So clearly, I'm not related directly to that. I am related indirectly. So my mission is trying to help my family. And by doing so, I want to do so. I have to help all people around me. So making sure that works. Listen to the front line. I mean, my team today, when working in the US, so we're working offshore. We get different race, different age. We have diversities on the new woman's age, race, and everything. And I'm trying to listen to people on the front line. How can I help you? I'm here to help. How can I help you? Let me know what are your issues or your possibility or your opportunities. It cannot be only negative, it has to be positive also, and see how can I contribute. That would be my advice. Great. I mean, it's important for Sodexo, as you know, Rohini has very strong values. And if you can start to adapt to them and making sure that people on the front line see the benefits for them, it's going to be much more easier.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. This was fantastic. So this last piece was really good in terms of, as a global leader, to really internalize the benefits of this work, not just doing it to check the box or to get some pay, but believing in it and really disrupting your worldview. So I think you beautifully articulated this first principle in my book, which is make it local. Which really, what you did was, understood the context, understood the environment, learned a little bit about the people, and with that knowledge, you really pushed for change, but you partnered with the local change agents in order to make that happen. So fantastic example, and really appreciate what you're doing, and look forward to learning more from you as we progress. So thank you again for being here, and for those that are listening in, we are going to explore the second principle in the book next month, which is leaders change to lead change. So you'll be hearing from another leader next month. Thank you, Alain.
Thank you, Rohini.